Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, someone that we met at the Bellevue Art Fair while we are hosting our booth there. Her name is Alana Collucci. We met her and her daughter, and they are both just such amazing people and even more amazing artists. And so, I was lucky enough to have them be able to come back over to our studio so we can record her for our podcast. So, here we are today. I hope you guys enjoy. She is just such a wonderful person, and my only regret is not having met her sooner. So, enjoy, guys. What kind of art do you do?
My art now has changed a lot since my accident. My medium is either acrylics or oil-based. Depends on the time frame that I need.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and then my favorite part is when I get to infuse raw crushed glass.
Oh, well then you would have loved, earlier we just cracked a whole bunch of glass that's over there sitting.
Yeah? Was it accident prone? Maybe that was the universe saying, oh, Lonnie's coming. Psh.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh my god, you're right. What a better entrance. It's like she has arrived and all the materials just start gathering for you.
Matter of fact, that's what that's what the CEO wants to do for my painting on the auction. It got moved from silent to live. She's like, Alana, I have a great idea, and she wants to bash glass up on the stage.
Really?
Yeah, right before they start doing the thing.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I guess we're going to do it like in this bin. When I first told my dad, he's like, "It's not going to be a big cleanup." And I'm like, "No, Dad.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be in a bin. We're going to bash it, and then."
I imagine that makes sense for safety reasons too, but like.
Well, yeah, we're going to do the goggles, and I'll bring in my sledgehammer, and
what
we'll
kind of glass
strap on
do
the
you?
gloves. So it depends on the piece. Like for one client I did, and this was a couple of years ago, it was a rage painting. It was after her divorce, and we collected a whole bunch of stuff, went through her cupboards, went through, so it was a matter of some old wine bottles. We had some shattered plates because she didn't want the china pattern anymore. All this kind of stuff. So we had big chunks, little chunks. China comes down into a very nice sand.
Oh, it does?
Oh,
I've never shattered china, surprisingly.
Well, when you bash things enough, it can, be big pieces or little pieces. So that one, we went, big stuff, and then we went down it because ultimately she wanted an abstract beach when we were done.
That must have looked amazing.
It did. So the bigger pieces, we throw paint on that. They become rocks. We layer into the paint just these big open raw shards. So some of the waves get to become big shards. The teeny tiny bits of, old wine glasses, big glasses, little glass pieces. But the more you bash it, then it becomes, basically looks like glitter.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you would hear them with a glue, or is the paint also the glue?
So no, all of the glass pieces get pressed down with glue.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes if it's there's a couple of pieces that I've done with an epoxy finish.
Oh yeah.
So that gets completely laid in. There's some that just the glue is enough. Like the piece I did for my son's auction. That I was really proud. It got a really nice high amount. It was, I think, over $1,500 that it brought in for the, that we're hoping for that one for the next one. But yeah, that was for when he went to New Horizon School. And for that event, we made sure that, it was something, a medium that somebody would appreciate, and yes, it was very, very appreciated, and that scene came out beautiful. That glass was just, my own glass, no set emotions behind it other than, oh, I need some glass, so
yeah.
pour it up.
Do do you have a spot you go to? Because I can see you going through antique shops and like picking up stuff, or like I feel like honestly Goodwill is a good spot too because they just have so
Love
much.
Goodwill. Yep. And so that would be the answer for that one. There's a set that I'll be doing. I don't know if you call it a collection or a series, but there's an offering, a type of paint that I'll do for people who are in recovery. And so when they have maybe their favorite last, or maybe not, a no favorite anymore, but they want to celebrate, and maybe it's been a year or 5 year or a 6 month or whatever. So maybe it's just a collection of bottles. So we bash those all up, and now something that used to be a huge burden in their life and turmoil and angst, now say they love trees, what we were talking about. Now we have a beautiful Pacific Northwest forest. You do a treescape, and then you just have all these shards of raw treescapes. I've done a beach one too.
I just can't believe it. It seems like such a versatile medium to get into. I'm surprised I never thought about it. As you're talking to me about it, I visualize in my head, I'm like, this seems like such a unique and personal type of artwork, and the process itself just seems amazing because they get to, like you're saying, they get to take something that caused them a lot of trouble throughout their life, and then they get to release it almost just by shattering it. They get to let it go, and then also turn it, because it's a part of their lives. They're not forgetting about it. They're just they're transforming, and so that's what they're doing with their art.
It's a different memory now.
Yeah,
it's a different way to celebrate. It's a different, the person who's now a recovering alcoholic can look at, he still has his pocket medal, or she, and now they can also look at this and be like, I got you. Or think, they think of their happy place. Yeah, this is my happy place. Or something that was a demon. Now, no, I got this. And that isn't for everybody. Maybe they would look at this and be like, oh no, I know what you're made of. But for some, when I was, again, the CEO from Kent Chambers, she's like, I was talking to a couple of my friends, they're like, so I have commissions already, a couple of, in the waitings. I'm like, I really need to get past this painting first, but we're going to talk. And these are just, somebody had asked me, they're like, did you read about that? How'd you think about that? I'm like, literally, I think I was driving somewhere in the highway, something, and it just
came into your head.
It did.
That's awesome.
I just do. The energy of breaking things, probably I know it stems back to my childhood.
Oh yeah, I was kind of thinking about that too, because for me, breaking things was always a no-no.
Oh yeah, it still is.
Oh yeah, even as an adult, it's like, well, now you have to pay for that out of your pocket if you break it. So
definitely.
Yeah, so I guess it must be nice, honestly, to be able to consistently do that throughout your life and just be able to break something. Do you feel like now when you interact with things you're not supposed to break, you're more careful with it, or you?
Oh, I have a great time. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. For me personally, I love it. So I want to bring this to such a light, you know. Back in the day when I was a young mother, again, I know I started when I was a kid. I would, break stuff. I'd do, oh, I'm mad, and then I clean it up. I always make sure I was a safe spot, and then my mom would be like, oh, where'd that dish go? No, I don't know. But that was always the thing, And when I was a young mother, I had a temper, and we had struggles and changes and this and that and the other. And I noticed when we had moved back to Cape Cod, there was just this elevated stuff. I had 4 children, and we had various struggles or this or that. And I would, my husband would go off to work, and he had a big ton of hours. I know I had postpartum big time, and whether undiagnosed or just unacknowledged, yeah.
That makes sense. We're told not to. We're like, you might feel this way, but don't, because we don't have to deal with it.
Just buck up. You have all these other ones. Have you not figured it out by now? Just a lot of undealt with, or if I did deal with it, I probably thought I was dealing with it the wrong way, or a lot of our emotions. We'll get to it in a minute. Let's tackle these fires first. So, get the husband off to work. I would come home. I was working night audit, 11 at night to 7 in the morning, and get the husband off to work, kids off to school, this and that, deal with whatever the dog did. And I had this stuff, and, me and the kids will joke about it now, but for the longest time, I remember going to yard sales and hiding dishes down at this one house we had. We had a basement. Kate, you always have a basement in some house.
Oh, yeah.
And I would smash these dishes against the wall, and it was safe. I got it all out. I didn't cause any harm to myself or others.
Yeah.
And it would bring my temper down, because then I wouldn't be yelling at the children, because that goes nowhere. And I...
It was a release.
And then I would sweep everything up and put it away and hide it in the box, and nobody knew about it until I told my therapist years later. They're like, so how do you feel about that? I'm like, what?
It seems like a healthy coping mechanism to me, at least on my part.
That's what I thought. But of course, therapists wanted to dig all into it. I'm like, really? We have to open that box?
Yeah. It's like I'm comfortable with that part.
I'm like, I threw those out. So yeah, the therapist ripped right into it, and of course we uncovered all the stuff. And there was a lot of stuff, but it was a combination of stuff that was never dealt with from the time I was a child on.
Yeah.
And there's tons of that stuff that goes around for everybody.
Yeah. And that's what's beautiful about it, because you were able to actually you took initiative, and you were dealing with it, regardless of whether or not anyone would disagree with how you dealt with it. I think it was great that you were able to do that, because there's a lot of people who, instead of doing that, they suppress it, they never deal with it, to the point where it's like it's not acknowledged even to themselves. So I think that's wonderful, and the fact that you're able to even take that and then eventually transform it into an art form. Is that kind of how that started?
That's how it's coming back now, because I just know I healed a lot through those other therapies. I finally, after my mother-in-law, God, she was my best friend, she passed in 2008.
Oh.
And then a lot of stuff happened that year, and a friend of mine said, you know what, you might, just be grieving, because a lot of the whole anger stuff started surfacing, and I'm like, okay. After I've always been very systematic with a lot of things, and again, I had thought that I had kind of leveled out a lot of this and that, but then all these things had really peaked in 2008. So finally, when 2008 started coming towards a close, I had just started seeing someone, thank God. Because little did I know, at the end of 2008, it would end with, that's when my accident happened.
Oh, yeah.
But
I didn't mean to ask, but should we circle back to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, where was I?
Oh, sorry, it was end of 2008.
Oh, yeah. Because somebody had thought it was, you need to grieve for your mother-in-law. And I'm like, okay. So I approached therapy with, okay, doc, I don't feel so good. Let's purge it out. Great. 1-2 visits. Super. He's like, no.
That's what I thought too when I started going to therapy.
I know, right? I'm like,
it's like going to the doctor for a prescription. It's like, okay, I know what I need to fix. You fix it for me now.
Yeah, I thought this therapy was just kind of like, I thought the way I was feeling was just kind of like a hangover. Be like, can I just rest a little bit? Maybe have, some fried chicken around 1 o'clock and I'll be fine. Because, I've been hungover like maybe 3 times in my life.
Oh, lucky
but
you.
I know. I always counted. But, he's like, no, it's not quite that easy. I'm like, seriously? It was a good therapist, though, because after several months, I'm like, so that's what all this stuff was. It wasn't really this moment, but it was all of these moments. Well, that blows. So, but the whole bashing of things gave me reason for it and thought we covered it. As to where it may not happen again, but there was this real little thread in me. I'm like, but I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
And it was instant, and it can be very decisive, and you can be like, I feel better. Now what? And you see these rage rooms. Sometimes you just need to be mad.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to get things out in a healthy way.
Exactly.
Sometimes writing in a journal ain't enough. Especially for a spaz like me who's like, you can't get to it fast enough.
That's why art's amazing, because words are just, sometimes there's a limit to what they can express.
Yeah. So, rage art is a thing.
Yeah.
And if it's not, I'll make that a thing too. But,
nice. New business idea.
yeah, I'm sure I have it somewhere. Didn't mean to make that a long thing.
No, by all means. This is the whole point. I like getting to hear this stuff from you. I had no idea, and I honestly, I just like hearing it now. I already thought you were an amazing person, but I'm just
thanks.
like, wow.
I really thought that the bashing thing was something to be like a horrible, oh my God, what an awful person. Thank God you didn't like hurt anybody, but now you need to be an appropriate person. Just keep that all boxed away and don't ever do that again. Well, didn't really do it again. Every now and then I'd bash something. Oh, recycling. Yay. Ooh, I get to recycle again. Yay.
Seizing the opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Boy, this recycling's getting really full. Stomp, 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 stomp. We have a little bit more room. I had a little Joan phase, but...
Oh, Joan phase?
Yeah, Crawford, where, she liked your vodka.
Oh, yeah.
Had a couple extra bottles then. But then it cycles back to, but now what do I do with it all?
Yeah.
Anticlimactic. Then my mom dies, beginning of 2020. And going back and forth to California, seeing things up. Came home on one of the between trips because my dad was still down there and closed at the houses, and I don't know where I found myself. Full on anger mode. Pulled stuff out of the cupboards. Got a whole bunch of. My husband enjoys Miller Lite. Thank goodness he had a lot of the bottles for. It was, I think we had everything from Super Bowl still left over.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Super Bowls were the
huge. They were there. Pulled that all together. Bashing away. And it was the beginning of everything, because my mother died without doing her art. And everything else that bothered her from the time she was a child. She never dealt with anything. and it killed her.
So you saw that and you were like, that will not be me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kept all that shattered glass.
Did you make some art out of it?
That's going to be her painting.
Oh my gosh, wow.
I have those boxes, and it moved from that house to the house we bought with my dad. Because I moved him up here, and he lives with us now. And, yeah, because I knew that piece that I did for the auction, I felt so alive using that glass.
Yeah.
And it was so unique and so amazing, and I was just enthralled with it, and I was going to always do something like that. I did that piece, and I did my son's piece when he turned 30. But when my mom died not doing it, I'm like, I need to do this on this scale, not a little bits on the kitchen table scale.
I get that. It has to equal the amount that she had an impact in your life, right?
It was I need to impact not just myself, not just my family, not just my friends. This is more of because I've collaborated with other companies before. I started just when you kind of like when we have a thought of a piece, you just start scribbling and start taking sketches, and it just started. It started, and I'm like, I don't know how big this is going to be, but it has to be epic.
That's great.
And it has to be mental well-being, which I've always been between myself and my son and our various injuries. That's other topic and story, but that's always been infused in our healing. Will I work with the Brain Injury Association again, or will I be working with Children's Hospital? Will I be working with Places back on Cape? I don't know, but my art has to be thread through it. The type of emotional release you get with breaking of glass, of dishes, of old dolls you can't use anymore, or you want to just showcase a few, but what are you going to do with the other ones? Turn them into something else.
Yeah, it could be used. I never thought about that either.
Stop feeling... I made a painting out of that. Stop feeling guilt because you broke something when you were a kid. Make it into something else. Reuse, repurpose, rememory. I have to find that tagline somewhere. See? The business end. I already have notes. Is that TM'd? I don't know. I'll figure it out.
It should be. You should do it now. If it's not...
I'm serious. So, yeah, I think I wrote it down. Allie probably has it. I'm like...
Oh, Allie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Allie.
Yeah. So I'm like, that has to be something, because when people ask what my medium is, I'm like, yeah, it's another business thing. Because there's other people that work in this glass that's kind of taking on these last few years.
Yeah.
But it's all very precision, and it's all very, let's take some tap, tap, tap glass and let's create.
Yeah.
No, by all means, their work is beautiful, beyond beautiful.
But I just think that yours is, on so many levels, it has like an impact. Like for you, just making it, especially with the piece you're talking about with your mom, it's so personal to you. And the fact, I didn't know this, but you're donating it when you do the auctions to those charities.
Right.
Yeah. So then it's
that's
like a
piece of it,
effect.
right? It will. That's how it's going to be. So that's a piece of where the studio's going. That's why this Gala piece was so important, because I'm like, well, that's timing for you. Just keep saying yes. Keep saying yes. When I was telling Tammy, my mentor, I'm like, I want to do this, that, this. She's like, in addition to that, you need to do a book. I'm like, a book for what?
Oh, yeah.
She's like, the relationship between you and your mother and your childhood and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, for heaven's sake. I don't have time for that. She's like, just write, talk into your phone, do this, do that, the other. Just start emailing it to me, and I'll help put it all together. So now Ellie and I do that. I'm like, oh, God.
Is that all part on your plate right now?
It just that it's a continual thing, because this whole thing, it'll all unfold just like those beautiful little flowers. It will all unfold the way it needs to. And how amazing was, like I said, this was all happening in 2020, and then we were impacted with what else? COVID and all these things, and I just kept writing, just kept doing, just kept thoughts. And then right when our world needed mental
health
health
the most. Yeah.
And awareness and just presence of providers the most, I don't know about all of the United States, but at least in this area, they cut it down. I'm like, well, what are you doing?
It did feel that way.
I'm
still
an
does,
avid
honestly.
paper reader, and I listen to the news just for the amount I have to, before it just kills my soul.
Oh gosh,
But
yeah, news is just a whole other.
Yeah, I don't. But the business part of me, I'm like, are you kidding me? It literally, this is why my son's appointments are, sure, we've taken this, and then if we don't call you in 6 to 9 months, give us a call back. I'm like,
Who knows what happens in 6 to 9 months?
thank God he's not on a roof
Yeah.
or in traffic. We've had those days. I'm like, but then I can appreciate what they're probably dealing with, the poor souls who are.
Like I said, I imagine there's a lot more people, especially during COVID, that were either like coming to that realization. Because it's like you have work and everything to distract you up until that point. People can easily just push stuff back until
the need went up, resources and money went down.
It should have been that. Yeah, it should have been equal. There should have been just as many resources out there. And that's why I'm so happy that this place existed. I joined relatively during the pandemic as well. I was having a really hard time at the job that I was working at. I felt like I had to choose between, having a roof over my head or having a good sense of mental health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, I was like 19 at the time. That was just, I wasn't ready to make that decision. I was all on my own. I had all this pressure on me. So to have a place like this where I was like adopted into this wonderful family of artists, and I just got to like utilize, kind of like in the sense where you use art as a form of self-relief, I was able to embrace that and do that in my own way. So it saved my life, honestly. I don't know where I would have been at this point without it. And that's why I'm like, everyone I feel like should be able to do that. And because art is such a versatile thing, where it's like, it doesn't just have to be painting. You can do clay, you can do rug tapestries.
Yeah.
Anything you can think of is art.
Yes.
So and people just need to know that it's accessible to them and that they can actually do that.
They do.
And
they
so-
do. You need to bring it together, even tactile. My son's school, his best friend is autistic.
Oh, the textures.
Right.
Yeah.
One artist buddy can make something for another artist buddy. Two different with two different materials. One can make it for the other. I mean, my granddaughter has I think she's on the scale as well. She loves those little poppy things.
Oh, the ones where it's kind of like you pop it
and she
back
likes
and
to
forth.
look at the visual squishy things. She's like, Nana, can we eat? I'm like, you want to watch what? And then, 45 minutes later, I'm like, oh, wait, is there another one? I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just watched all of that. I mean, they're disgusting, but very, very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But but if it brings peace, and I mean, I watched my granddaughter go from having meltdowns because she couldn't have a sandwich at 1:15 to, learning the ebb and flow of a very noisy family. And it's a matter of comfort and trust and giving. And again, if she knew, hey, how about you give Nana a few minutes, you sit down with your colors and your this right at the table, let me put these groceries down, and then we'll make a sandwich together, you're good. Guess what saved her? The art.
That makes sense.
If she didn't have that, she would have one less comfort. And it occupies a different part of our minds.
You don't have to. It's not like you're doing math. It's not like You know what'll calm me down? Doing like some algebra? No. It's like art is very, it can just be from within and you don't have to think about the process.
I mean, possibly. I remember after my accident, and then the psycho, whatever therapist, whoever gives the 8-hour test to say, yep, your brain got scrambled. I'm like, seriously? I said, okay, great. So what do I do? Oh, and he hands me like 4 different pages of, just, pick and choose from this stuff. I'm like, he's like, but for the short term, maybe it's Sudoku or crosswords. I'm like, okay.
It's like...
I effing hated those to begin with. Why would you think I like them now?
Yeah.
I mean, I like math. He's like, well, aren't you a bookkeeper? I said, yeah, on a 10 key.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did you not learn anything about me? You're the brain doctor?
Do you think it's maybe because
I left that thing like shaking. I wanted to break stuff so bad. After my accident, oh my God. Talk about being angry. I broke a lot of stuff after that.
Well, just imagine like in a perfect world, instead of hearing, here, like your brain's all messed up. Here's some Sudoku. There, instead of like, here's some things that are based on what we've learned about you will actually help you cope.
Yeah.
And deal with this thing in
if
like
you
a
forget
healthy
stuff,
way.
set alarms. How do I do that? How do I do that? Part of my brain just won't help me with my phone that I don't know how to use anymore. Oh, I don't know. Read the directions.
And there's so many resources out there that are like people who go through similar things are voicing like this is what helps me, but you don't get those suggestions from the professionals. They just have, like you said, like 4 pages, and this is what we're allowed to tell people they can do with their lives.
Yeah, that stuff was so old.
It's outdated, I'm sure.
Read. Oh, you're an artist? Well, calm yourself. Maybe try this first. Maybe try these relaxing things first. Maybe any of these. It was like nothing having to do with art. Nothing.
Yeah.
It was all... did the New York Times like pay you to say Sudoku or Sudoku, however you say it? I was just like, you're kidding me. So I closed off.
Yeah, that's the type of thing that would also deter people from returning back to those services if need be, because it's like, well, you didn't really exactly give me everything I needed in that moment. Prior the first time. Why would people go back if they didn't enjoy it?
Exactly. It made me feel stupid. It made me feel inept. It made me feel less of a person. And then I would sit, and then my brain, my analytical part of my brain was like, okay, figure it out, work the problem, this and that.
Yeah.
And I found my own other resources. I would gold star my way out of the basic therapies, occupational therapies that they gave me, which is basically like for stroke victims. Mm-hmm. No harsh meaning, but those are the people who couldn't hold a spoon, they just didn't have things set up for people like me.
Yeah.
And so I found somebody who would help me, and then they were like, oh, we'll try this, try that, look on this computer. It still wasn't adapted to me. And then she was looking at these pages in my book. By then I had made these like quadruple check processes, just like remember pants, before I left the house. And she's like, oh, that's a really great day sheet. And she's like, can I borrow that? I'm like, sure, here. Can you help me with all of these things that I'm lagging in my day?
Yeah.
She's like, not really, but look how much better you're doing with this.
They'll see improvement
like,
where they can
thanks.
instead of, yeah.
I'm still ending my day completely enraged. Super. I've checked off myself to maddening end. Now it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My pants are on. I've managed to eat breakfast. I've had my equivalent of coffee that I can. Now it's 2 o'clock. It's taken me 4 hours to write an email. Super. Any way I can have any part of my life back. No.
I think that we're moving.
It just made me angry.
Oh, I can totally understand that. These things don't just work for every person on the earth. It's like Yeah, like, oh, your dog's whining, just take him out and walk more. That's not the solution
or
to people.
rip their neck apart.
Yeah, exactly. But we're humans, and not that dogs don't have complex emotions, but we have really, like you're saying, like, some of the stuff that we end up encountering over time isn't just one thing. Like, oh, I have anger issues. I have anger issues because, and then it's a list of life experiences and things that have either misconceptions that have never been addressed or have, like, been worsened by other things that happen along the way. It's like, go on a jog if you're feeling sad. Like, not everyone wants to go on a jog.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you need different outlets. And I think what you're doing is great because even it has so many ways that it impacts people. But most of all, I think in the future, which would be great, is people who are going through similar experiences as you can, like, look back and be, or their therapist or whoever is talking with them could be like, this is a resource now that's available, that you can do something like that. And it exists only because you're brave enough to take that first step yourself. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here.
I really hope so. I mean, and there has to be other ways, you know. There has to be other ways than take this handful of pills.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that the right balance of Eastern medicine, Western medicine, getting to know your own body through physical management, mental management, psychological management.
Yeah.
You know, but you can't get to know yourself when you're clouded with 13 different tablets that are making you not feel or not think or not see.
And no amount of Sudoku is going to get you to undo whatever childhood trauma that occurred.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, whether it's, you know, a physical trauma that torques something else out, or it's an emotional trauma, or it's a temporary trauma. I mean, we have real stuff in the world. I mean, and they have to acknowledge that there's other ways, and you can't start, you know, sometimes you just have to get through the ugly. Mm-hmm. I've always said that. I mean, and not everything that splashes a canvas is meant for, you know, a fundraiser or for dollars that will go into your pocket. Sometimes it's just meant to go and scribble some stuff out and just rip it to shreds and burn it. I've had a burn party too for someone.
Nice.
You know, it was a wonderful ritual thing, and because my friend had this it was a Nordic thing, and it was a whole wonderful ceremonial, however she remembers the words, but
I've seen videos
really
of
cool.
it, or not probably of the exact same thing, but I've seen, like, Nordic ceremonies.
Yeah,
and it
was
seems like
amazing.
A beautiful process. Definitely
yeah, it was part
like,
of what we added to the fire.
I'm surprised we don't have more stuff like. I think that's another thing. It's a culture thing here.
Yeah,
is that our culture is not ingrained with deal with your emotions in a healthy way. I think it's safe to say that because, like, a majority of this country is, like, believes that it's, like, Catholic, and Catholic religion is always just like, you do something bad, punishment. There's right and wrong, and even if you don't believe in that, that's the type of pressures that are put into you by society. It's like, there is a right way of doing things. You fall into this line, or you fall through the cracks. And a lot of people are falling through the cracks for that very reason. Is because the foundation is brittle and it's falling apart.
Yeah. I was born and baptized Methodist, and I tease about that. I'm like, and people are like, "Oh, what's Methodist?" I'm like, "Well, you go to Sunday school when you're a kid, and then when you grow up, you know, become an adult, you go to church on holidays." Because that's basically when my mom and dad went to church, was, you know, on holidays. But then when I met my husband's family, they were all Catholics, and I appreciated, my ADHD brain, of course, appreciated this. I appreciated and again, this is on Cape Cod, it was a wonderful little church. I appreciated the structure of it and it's, the different traditions behind it. And of course, my mother-in-law was beautiful and wonderful, and their family stories behind it. And again, there's all the traditions. Did I say that already? So, but my mother-in-law was so badass. She would argue and tempt and was just this wonderful woman of a human, she'd be like, yeah, but about those Marys, you know, do you really think this? And Father Tom would be like, oh God, Kathy. But he was open enough to, you know, accept her and be like, you know, yes, we believe in Catholicism, but we're also human beings. He was the coolest.
Yeah.
He accepted our oldest child. He didn't ever bash to be like, if you're gay, you're going to go to hell. He'd be like, when I'm wearing my cloth, here's the verbatim. Mm-hmm. However, as your family priest and friend,
you're welcome.
And around your table.
Yeah.
And what I firmly believe, we're going to heaven because God does not create mistakes. How badass is that?
That is actually...
He's an amazing human being.
I think if actually there were more people like him out there, then there probably wouldn't be such a bad rep.
Yeah.
For the amount of other people who are always holding out signs, toting hate around. It's like, that's not the purpose of religion.
No, he did. He blessed his union and just all these wonderful, beautiful things. I'm like, really? He's like, no, I can't marry you. It may have to be, you know, Deacon or Marilyn or something like that. He's like, but I'm going to celebrate with you. And so, you know, we got it. It was just, I mean, you know, I don't remember all the words, but basically Miles just came out like on cloud 9, you know, just like, cool.
Nice.
You know, I'm not going to hell.
I know. And then you hear that support from people in your community, I think is the most important.
Yeah. And then, but, you know, he grew up in a family with the support with like, well, that's not it. Well, fuck him. You know?
Yeah.
That's it. But then to know that there isn't that's another piece of this. Embracing, that's a trauma. Any child who, I'm so sorry, this conversation is just going everywhere, but
oh no, it's great.
Those I couldn't ever imagine a child who is turned away by their own flesh and blood based on how they're growing, based on how their soul is taking them through life. And I mean, that's just a failure as parents, you know?
Yeah.
Or as any family member, as friends, as other human beings.
We just need to treat each other with respect.
Yeah, we do.
If you consider that we're all children of God, then how could you not love?
That's right.
A creation.
That's right. And I don't care whatever that word is that you stand by. And when I was a teacher, the CCD, because we went through the gamut. One of my students had asked me, they're like, well, what if, because you know when you're at a certain age, and I think this is for all religions.
Or the questions.
Yeah, when you're, I think you're 16 or whatever, or 14, I don't know, when you're an adult in the church and you go through that ceremony and blah, 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 and they're like, well, what if, you know, but Buddhism and this, and my friend is a Christian, my other friend's Baptist, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know what? That's a fabulous question. I said, but every one of us sitting around this table, we all know. I said, that's a question when you go home, and if you have parents that will support you in your questioning. I said, don't just make it a question of the day. I said, I firmly believe all of our religions, it's kind of like a language between us and a higher power. That I firmly believe that.
That's a beautiful way of putting it.
Thank you. I said, I know I'm teaching CCD and that, you know, I have my book and you guys have your textbooks and we're going to do it. So we all get to our little celebration at the end. However, having said that, you asked me as your teacher and I'm going to tell you. Boy, did I get in trouble. I said, but look it's like a language. Now, you need to make sure you understand each different language. Now, as you grow throughout your life, and one just resonates with you more, you understand one more, and that's helping you with your relationship with this higher power.
Embrace it.
Then that's the one for you. Now, this little date we have coming up a couple of months from now, if between you and your parents, you decide that it's okay for you to step away from Catholicism, then you do that. But you do it with respect. You don't do this because your buddy is Baptist or because you read somewhere that being a Buddha is really cool.
Oh, yeah, just like spider to be
That's
angsty.
right. I said, that's not okay. Or you want a henna tattoo for the rest of your life? I said, that's not why you do it.
Because you got to make sure they're doing it for the right reasons.
I said, but that's how we believe. Now, a lot of everyone believes that Catholicism, that's the voice that speaks to them the most. I said, but a true person of anyone's faith is not going to say, mine is the one and only. Because do you think, honestly, we are the only people on this entire planet, let alone the universe?
Yeah. It's so expensive. It's like, and without so much ambiguity, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
But I do have a little bit more time left, but I did want to ask, just so that other people who are new to this and who don't know you from your, like, where they're normally sourcing information about you, where can they find you, and or as in, like, do you have an Instagram or websites you'd like to link?
And hopefully you can edit this together so it actually sounds cohesive.
Oh, yeah, of course, and I'll have visuals and the giant fireworks going on the sides.
Oh, really?
Oh, no, but I mean, I could totally do that.
Whatever helps the podcast, do it for the podcast.
Yes.
Let me think. What's my I believe my Instagram is my name, and it's Alana Collucci. But it's the one with Perfection Shattered, because there's an old Instagram that was created years ago. Don't we all have like one or six? No, that one was like a personal one that I started when I first got here, because everyone's like, oh, Instagram,
oh, post your
do
life
vacation,
online.
Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. But then it became a nuisance, so I didn't do it anymore. So what I'm saying is, when you look up my name, apparently there's two.
We'll have the right one there.
Yeah. This one has Perfection Shattered on it. So it's Alana Collucci, and then it'll say Perfection Shattered.
Nice. And you said you have an upcoming auction soon where you'll actually be doing a live performance. Will that be in Washington?
Yeah, it's through Kent Chamber. It's their gala.
Oh, okay.
And it's like a casino night.
That's fun.
So where they're raising a whole bunch of funds for, I guess, all of, small business and
I guess charities of your choosing.
Yeah. So I mean, when I was president of the board at my son's school, I was always in charge of the gala for the years that I was, and they were always a big hoodoo, and I had a marketing team and all this kind of stuff, and I had all these reports that got sent to me all the time, and I knew everything going on with the gala. This time I just have to show up on time and, again, point me in the right direction.
Yeah.
But
well,
this one, it actually is a big deal, and I have to remember that. The CEO is like, this is so much more focused for at least a few minutes, not on the school or on my presentation as president of the board, but on my opening and my talking about my studio launch. So, yes, that's why it's exciting.
Well, it definitely sounds exciting. When is that?
It's September 24th.
September 24th?
Yeah.
Or I definitely, if I have that day off, I will definitely be coming to that.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, it's September 24th. If you do, I will make sure that there's room at my table.
Oh, yeah.
I think
is it an RSVP thing? I probably should have asked.
As far as right now, yes.
But that's totally fine too.
No, you should. We can talk afterwards.
Yes.
Because that would be amazing. But yes, it's important because she's putting together a bunch of words that are very concise and straight to the point about the studio and what it means and how important it is, and so I don't ramble on for more minutes than I'm supposed to. But yes, all the energy behind it and what the meanings are and the collaborations that I want to work with.
Cool.
You guys included, because we're going to have some really fantastic things that we're going to be doing, all for the right things and good causes.
That's why I'm just so happy that I got to meet you. Or not, I have already met you before, but now I feel like I've actually met you. Yeah, I've met you in detail. So thank you again so much for joining us.
You were amazing that day. I was just drawn.
Oh, that was on purpose. I wore that on. No, I was kidding.
No, I couldn't tell you what you wore, but I could tell you what your energy was.
Oh, well, thank you. People say that a lot. I don't always believe it, but I do appreciate it. Maybe one day I'll fully embrace it.
You know what? Maybe you're not supposed to. Maybe you're just supposed to be.
Forever humbled.
Yes! That's true.
Maybe that's it, yeah. I would be down for that. I feel happy where I'm at the moment, so.
That shows through. And my husband tells me the same thing about myself. I'm like, really? But it's that same thing, and then people see through that, and then they'll get to you, and that's what they're supposed to get to.
Yes.
So keep doing that.
Yes, and you keep breaking things. Everyone, keep breaking things.
I love that.
Maybe that could be your slogan. Break it. Maybe not.
Just break it. You know you want to.
Well, there we are, folks, and thank you again for listening. That was Alana Collucci and all of her wonderfulness, and you can find her on Instagram by Alana Collucci, and I'm sure you can also find her LinkedIn if you just type in Alana Collucci through Google. Our next guest that will be on our podcast is Zach Aquino. He does this really cool Filipino tattoo art, but with a twist. So stay tuned, and bye-bye.